life is what happens. And we all know that. So everyone needs to stop making it happen or trying to have it happen their way. You can do your little bit of adjustment with certain things that go on, but mostly you have to be responsive to the what is. And you never know what that will be. And your response is either going to be a programmed response from God knows when, or it will be the response of the moment. And the response of the moment, which is tutored and learned, is okay. When you get to okay, all of the inconsistencies and disruptions of daily life don't matter very much. And if they do, you've got a big lesson to learn. You can really start to go, what is it that's mattering and why? Who's affected and where did this effect come from? And not to do that intellectually, because that just becomes diagnostic, but to really go into the system and feel what is it that is feeling disrupted and how can you make it otherwise? And making it otherwise is not analytical, it's just letting it go. So the great gift of Rudy to all of us really is that the process of letting stuff go isn't that hard. It's just not taught anywhere. You know, you don't have a classroom in school where people say, this is what you do. You take a breath, you ask for help. Nobody does that. But if you've been blessed enough to have been given an instruction that actually says, do this, then every instance that comes up in your life, you can begin to surrender, let go, allow, witness, be present. In many cases, you're going to do really well at that. And in some cases, you will not. That's the work. The work is when it's not working. When you're trying to do it gently, lightly, easily, and it doesn't happen. That's spiritual practice. That's life comes at you in bigger and bigger ways, and all your old techniques don't work enough. You have to work harder, you have to work deeper, you have to give yourself over more to this process. It is the great gift of Rudy's teaching that it is a lifelong work and it continues to work. But you have to do it. You can't go, well, I did it 20 years ago. Why isn't it working? Because 20 years ago is not today. It just isn't. And the trajectory of our lives and our bodies and our minds is that it's going to become more essential and demanding that we find our path into this simple, okay. And I can tell you personally, there are days where I am beyond brilliant at it. And there are days where Blanche looks at me like, how did I marry this guy? And who is he? And what's going on here? And I have to do more work than I ever imagined. And you know, I'm learning. I am still learning. I thought I had gotten pretty much down to the final sort of understanding of things long ago, actually. I thought I had. But the proof is in the pudding that there's still stuff there. And as I described, I think, to this class previously, there is this, this stuff that remains that isn't resolved. And what I talk about it as is stuff from when you were 4 months old or a year old. There are these things that started to form that this is how you wanted it, this is what it should have been, this is what you were asking for, and it wasn't coming. Mom didn't bring you the milk when you wanted it, you weren't covered, you're freezing. Whatever happens when you're a kid, there are these little moments of fear and disturbance that were not attended to. And believe it or not, you carry that inside. And at some point, when everything else has been worked out, it's the 2-month-old in you that still needs work. So you have to figure that out. John, welcome.
Thank you, Bruce.
So we're going to sit for a while. Here's the best part of this work. Rudy gave it to us, and I will tell you, those who teach understand it. It's called Shaktipat. It's called giving something of not yourself, at least not the limited self, of your greater self, that comes through and is an energy boost, an energy gift to others. It's not a secret thing. You get a taste of it when you hug somebody and love them. You get that feeling for it. Sometimes, though, that love suddenly becomes something more than personal. It's like the universe working through you to hug someone. You feel it. It's so big. It's so intense. There's this kind of enormous amount of energy that comes through. Sometimes that energy can actually be directed at people just by thinking about them, by looking at them, by, in some ways, using the mudra work of the hands to direct energy, touching, which is what Rudy did a lot of. There is this extraordinarily wonderful, exquisite use of energy, of a loving, conscious energy to help people. So the fact that you are here and the fact that you have assembled to gain that energy means all you have to do is open to it and ask for it. And just say, yes, thank you. Or please help me to surrender, meaning not fight it. Because a lot of the time, people don't love themselves, and having somebody else love them is an intrusion, and it doesn't feel good. You don't want that. You want to find the part of you that goes, oh, let me try this. Let me open. Let me give it a shot. And whatever that may be, or thank you. And just reach and be open and let it come through. It is a brilliant, brilliant energy. It is the intuitive energy that comes through as you're a creative person who paints paintings or writes books. There's something that comes through you that knows more than you do, and you are able to share it with others. And as you share it with others, you are amazed at what it is. It is a knowing awareness that is beyond you, and it is exquisite. And when it goes into you, you feel you have been touched by something very special and very deep. As a writer, I always knew when I was writing and didn't know what to do next, I would sit down and wait. And I would be very open, and then this thing would just come through and it would go, okay. And I'd get up and go right to the computer and start writing. And I was given the gift of what next? We're all given that gift. And this class, the Shaktipat, is a gift to every person. It's an energy that comes from the mysterious, miraculous, unknowable reality that has given us birth in the first place. It has one purpose: open you up and make you available to the source of your own being, make you available to yourself. That's what it wants to do. You are the inheritor of something remarkable that was conferred upon you just by being born. And all you have to do is go, please help me to surrender, to open, to receive, whatever you want to say, and it'll happen. You can do it once and it's done. You can do it 100 times during the class if you're sitting in obstructive mode, but mostly take the breath and open. And once you're there, let it work. You don't have to do much more. So take this moment, sit still, take that breath into your heart. You can hold it for a moment to keep it quiet and still. And then you can quietly say, please help me to surrender. And at some point, this voice will be responded to with an open welcome, and taking you in, and then just be present. Sometimes the subject of a talk arrives early, like in the week, and I don't know if it'll still be current when I arrive at this juncture. But this somehow wants to be presented. And it's a line that Rudy used to say a lot. Mostly it was, you can't let go of what you haven't had, or it's hard to let go of what you haven't had. And so Rudy had a really interesting dynamic. I don't know how much it was appreciated at the time. I appreciated it because it was affected me directly. But he wanted us to be fulfilled in the world, or to at least make the full effort to get there, and the potential that it might happen. And if it didn't happen, it wouldn't be for lack of trying. So that you didn't end up at the final moments of your life regretting having not done, not gotten, not tried, not fulfilled something in yourself. And I witnessed so many people burdened by their regrets, burdened by what didn't happen, what could have happened, what should have happened. And this idea of deep surrender is learning to let go of all that. But I will tell you, having had the blessing of a career that worked, in many ways pushed by Rudy, I have to say, I think you all know he gave me a musical lyrics that he wrote, and he said, write a script. And I had yet to really begun doing that, but he knew that was where I was headed. And it was like, okay. And I did. It's called The Big Black Rainbow. It had music by other people in the class. I actually tried to get it at the Public Theater in New York, and they didn't think it was quite ready for showtime. But it was the beginning of something. And it was like a teacher who cared enough about his student to push that hard, to give that much of a gift. And I'm just one person. I don't know what he did for everybody else. But I know Rudy knew that if I didn't go the distance with that particular wish in my heart, that I would not be able to have a complete, satisfying, and fulfilling life. I was lucky. Again, I've described this so many times, but I will tell you that the gift of a successful life or career involves more than just wanting it and just doing the work. It involves a kind of commitment that shows your higher self, your deeper self, your greater self, your true self, that you mean it, that you're committed, that you want it. And that usually involves taking leaps of faith, having risks, doing things that might not necessarily work out, but that demonstrate to the powers that be, and trust me, I believe in some kind of accountability to forces we do not know or understand, that we are in it for the long haul. And that with that, we want to have and do and become what we say we want to do and become and have. And when the universe sees your level of commitment to that, it provides. Primarily because it doesn't want to waste its energy on dabblers, on people who are occasionally interested, who might get into it, who might want this thing. It's not enough. It's not enough energy. It's not enough energy in the material world. It's not enough energy in your spiritual life. Wanting this thing casually, occasionally, whenever it feels comfortable for you, the universe will go, okay, fine, I'll give you a little this, little that. When you are serious about it, when you really want whatever it is you're asking for, and many people in the spiritual sense don't really know what that is. You can articulate it as awakening, enlightenment, realization, liberation, all of the stuff, but mostly what it means is just make me happy and get out of my stress zone. That's really what most people want. And it kind of will help you with that. It will help deliver, but not permanently, because life is impermanent, and half of your stress is because of that, because you're here for a very temporary time, and everything that you're given and everything that you're allowed and everything you have is going to get totally taken away. That is an existential drama for everybody. There's no one free of that drama. You can get to a point where you don't look at it. You can do this thing that I call backing into life. So you never have to face the reality or the truth of what's in front of you. But what's in front of you is ultimately a kind of struggle and loss of everything. But when you have a spiritual journey that starts out with a life that is well-grounded, well-centered, where you are working toward the thing you want to have as best you can, when you are taking risks to get where you want to go, where you are taking leaps of faith, something resolves itself in your life and you feel like, okay, good. Now, in my situation, I had a very, what I guess you would call in Hollywood, a successful career. It was longer than most careers it had. You know, it had an Oscar, it had recognition. I have completely put that behind me. I know that sounds strange, but I don't reference that part of my psyche at all. Other people do, and it's a little bit even strangely awkward for me because I don't need that. It's done. It happened, finished. What I have learned, because all that is taken care of, is to put my attention in front of me. I have a different problem than most of you have, which is I don't know what to do at all. I have no clue when I wake up in the morning what to do. And that is a struggle beyond understanding for me. Maybe you all are good at that. Read the paper, take a nap, go for a walk. I mean, I've done all that. But the reality is not knowing what to do, how to face the future, brings up this wonderful, powerful existential reality. All you can face is now. Period. There's nothing else. The future is, we've heard this, it's a total abstract unknown. There is no future that you can face without mind events trying to interpret what it might be, what it could be, what it should be. And none of it has to do with reality. Reality is what happens when someone knocks on your door, shows up at your house, or whatever. Reality is what arises. And every day stuff arises. I'm always amazed. You turn on your computer, something is there. And if nothing is there, one of the things I am learning is make a cup of tea and sit on the porch. Just go sit down with a cup of tea. Amazing, amazing what that does. The still pointed quietness, reality of the birds singing, the frogs croaking, the wind blowing, and you just get that. And then something arises, maybe hunger, maybe going to the bathroom, whatever it is, but it carries you into the next moment and the next moment, and you begin to discover this incredible sense of, wow. But the phrase that's been coming up for me very strongly, and I think importantly, is it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Just be, just do. You don't have to do anything at the place that I have come to. If you're middle life and you'd have to make money for your family and support everybody and do all that, of course, that's a different story. But you should know it's very possible to arrive at a place in your life where it doesn't matter. You know, take a nap, have a cup of tea, sit around, put on some music, watch a TV show. I can't do that because I can't find anything I like. But you start to find this space in yourself that is, oh. And then there are days where you don't. There are days, and I had one this week, where I wanted to just simply send a gift to my brother for his birthday, 75. Everything that can go wrong in sending a gift to someone you love went wrong on that day. I typed in, I forgot one number in his email address, and all of this money was suddenly transferred to God knows who the other person might have been. I tried to call the company that was going to sponsor the gift, and their phone line said, we are not accepting anymore. We're full up. I could not write anything that would get a response. And it was like this stuff started to happen, and I got really reactive. I mean, I got really angry, I got upset, and the whole day started to implode. And it was awful. And I looked at myself going, you're not this person. You've been meditating for eons. Why are you having such a depressive experience? And it's kind of what they call it, I forget what you call it when all your equipment starts working, Mercury in retrograde. Yeah, it was like Mercury in retrograde, only worse. And I'll tell you what finally brought me out of it, and it took a whole day. It was this. I can't describe to you the power of touching, the power of mudra, the power of directing energy through subtle presence. And if you can just arrive at this thing that I have found as a gift because I never learned it, I never understood, I never trained in it, but this idea of this subtle touch, healing touch, works not only for others, but for yourself. And if you can just sit still like this thing starts to open for me. I feel very much when I do it like a conductor, and that there are these energies that move. And when I move with them, there's a beauty and a comfort and a joy that starts to move around. And I kept working that. It took me until I went to bed that night to really find the depth of what I was looking for. But I woke up a different person the next day with the line, which I just gave you. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. If my brother didn't get his gift, I would call him and tell him what it was, and I would work out another system of getting it to him. It was like everything would work out. And there is a simplicity in our lives that comes out of still pointedness, if you will, a subtle touch, a simple breath, a letting go, and a waking up to something that underlies the present. And I say underlies because much of the time, the present tense is not attractive. Much of the time, and I talked about this last week, there are moods and emotions and experiences that we don't like. And they're just there. And they are dominating the field of view. You know, things come at you in such a big way. This horrific accident, or whatever you want to call it, in Florida, where an apartment building collapsed. I don't know why I was so impacted by that. Maybe because I'm human, and maybe because I care about other people and I care about the suffering. And now that I have expanded my sense of persona, being, awareness, self, whatever you want to call it, all of that stuff impinges, it comes at me. And so the me, the self, and I think of it as the larger self, not the loose self, suffers the sadness of the suffering of human beings. And then you have to go, even this, slight touch, prayer. This is the reason you touch your hands together. You do these things because it opens you up. It touches you. It allows you to feel some respite from the deep suffering. And it reminds you there is something underneath that suffering that is ultimately resolving of comforting you in its totality. Finding your way there, it can come out of just acts of horror and difficulty. I watch people on the news doing this. I watch people on the news hoping and expressing faith. I knew that I could see the shallowness of their hope and faith. I knew it wasn't going to sustain them. I could tell that they didn't have grounding in it. But I saw them trying. All I can tell you is if you are lucky enough to have a life of a spiritual work, you can really go to these places and work and do the thing that allows you to open to all of those people, all of the people in the world, and you can go to masses of people in numbers and open your heart, and you realize you are one source of opening for the divine being that we are. You are one tiny little molecular opening. But trust me, it's so valuable. It's so important. It's so worthy to become that and to live that and to live it moment to moment, not just as something you do for you, because after a while that you just begins to, if not totally, it begins to evaporate. And so you're doing it for the self itself. You are becoming a source of compassion and love for the depth of profound suffering that almost everyone in the world experiences. When you become that, your capacity to feel is enormous. You will feel suffering, but you know it's not your suffering, it is our collective suffering. And when you do this, this comforting, whatever it is, you serve the larger reality. And in the end, witnessing and serving that reality is why we're here. Not a lot of people do it. Most people don't. Most people go, what about me? And yeah, of course, that's where most people live. What about me? And I get it. You know, one can have compassion for that reality because it's not tutored, it's not informed, it knows nothing about the inner journey, it knows nothing about the larger truth of the self. And so it's immersed in this unbearable, what about me suffering? But if you have been given the gift of what we've been given, which is kindness and compassion to others, you will be able to serve the self, the universe, God, the truth, the what isness of life, moment to moment to moment. And it's funny because sometimes serving the what is sitting on the porch with a cup of tea. Who would have thought? You're not out there knocking on doors and handing out pamphlets and saying you should come meditate and you can do all this. None of that. The universe is taking care of that stuff. Your job, find the still point, be quiet, open up, have your tea, and when someone comes to you, and they will, you will be available to comfort, to touch, to give, to serve. And that is an extraordinary thing. It's really extraordinary. And I have to say, I don't know if it promises that there will be someone there for you at the end, outside you, coming to comfort and help you and provide. You might be lucky to have that. It's a great gift. But what it does offer, I could say even promises, is you will be there for yourself. You will be there for you. And I will say again, I say this so repeatedly, it doesn't always show up the moment you want it. And I reference Christ all the time on the cross being abandoned by the Father. We too may feel abandoned at any given time, but the teaching of the Christ was, turn your attention outward and forgive them, for they know not what they do. That outward caring and concern about the other is the ultimate force that frees you from being locked into yourself. At that point, peace and understanding can come. So we're not walking around as special human beings because we have practiced meditation. Those who have achieved, quote, enlightenment or whatever, basically just work on a broader canvas. It's the same thing. We're all doing this in order to be one with the truth of being. That's why we're here. You're either doing it or not doing it. I will say one thing that I've become very conscious of is there is a lot of what I call smug spirituality. That I got this. I'm doing it. I know this. I'm there. I have this. I sit every day. I do all of my little blessings. I have this, whatever you think you're supposed to get. Or you have a sort of sense of self that is, has been very successful in the world, very attended to, has good family, has all these things. Or you have a mindset that really just reinforces your idea of self. I want to prepare you that all that's going to go away. And I watch it now in myself, so I can be a little bit of an arbiter of telling you what's coming as we get older. But they start to dissolve all of that stuff, all of that sense of your uniqueness, your particularity, your specialness. It all starts to just fade away. And as it starts to fade away, there will be momentary senses of wanting to hold and grasp and grab and hold it for yourself, but it won't last, it can't. it will just fade. And then, if you're lucky, what starts to happen is it doesn't matter. Oh, no. I'm telling you, it doesn't matter is a great teaching. It's a great teaching. Just be. Now, it doesn't matter isn't an excuse to do horrible things in the world. It doesn't matter is a reason to allow yourself to simply be now in the moment, present tense, you, whatever that may mean. And if there's nothing in front of you, cup of tea, coffee, Diet Coke. I don't care. I don't care what you do. But the idea is allow yourself your moment of silence and quietude so that the self can regroup, can represent itself, can be present for you when the next thing arises, whatever that be. So, try to take advantage of this thing that Rudy said, which is you can't let go of what you haven't had. Fulfill yourself. Finish the stuff you need to do. Do you need to go to Machu Picchu? Go to Machu Picchu. Do you need to listen to the Vienna Philharmonic in Vienna? Go to Vienna. But get it out of the way. Or find this new teaching. It doesn't matter. And that saves you a lot of money, saves you a lot of time, and you realize really it doesn't matter. Machu Picchu may be really interesting, but Blanche and I have traveled all over the world. I can't remember half the places we've been, nor can she. And it's really interesting. We talk about it. Remember that time we had dinner in Vienna or in Venice? Have we been to Venice? It really kind of comes down to that, guys. So you can do all that stuff, but I'm just telling you, it doesn't matter. Be present, show up, find this goodness, sweetness, kindness, compassion in yourself, bring it to others, and your spiritual life will take care of itself. It already is. So, in a world where it doesn't matter, I will ask for questions. Anybody have questions in the room or on the computer? Where you are. I don't need to put you on a computer. I know you're in very real places, but in my space, you're in a computer. It's very weird. No questions. Well,
I want to say thank you, Bruce. I want to say thank you. The deepest, most blazing clarity has come about thanks to you today, now. And I thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Thanks to all of you, really. I mean, none of this gets said without you. None of it gets exchanged without you. This involves duality. And that duality, of course, is turning into a singularity, but it can't happen without the expression of duality. And duality is a miraculous thing. Miraculous. I mean, that we, the singular, becomes the other is the most phenomenal thing. And then to discover how much you can love the other and appreciate that. And I look at each of you and each of you, and my God, I go, so special. Everyone's so special. And I sit with you, and my hands go into these strange little gestures of touching the ineffable specialness of each of you. And it's so beautiful. And then it just becomes a symphonic, gorgeous melody of exchange that goes on. And I just go, oh my God, this is amazing. And of course, very few people experience it, but we get to move in that direction. We get to know and experience how special the other is and can be. And if you're not feeling that, go deeper and you will, because it's sitting right there inside you, waiting to be felt. That's the ride. So, with no other questions, next week, July 4th, we will be in the West Coast, and probably everybody will do fireworks at 10 a.m. We'll see. But I'll teach anyone who shows up. And those of you who are here, thanks for coming. We'll be back in 2 weeks. Thank you.